Welcome to Math Practice with Miss Flaherty. Here's what you'll need. You'll need your YouTube Workbook. Today, we'll turn to page 7. Make sure at the top it says 5/18 because today is May 18th. And you'll need a pencil and an eraser. Feel free to pause or rewind the video as much as you need so you can work at your own speed. Hi, first grade mathematicians. I can't wait for some great math practice today. I want to start with some shout outs first. Let's say, way to go, Leela. Leela, nice job with your super neat bar models to help you compare two values and figure out how many more someone had. Let's say, way to go, Kayla. Check out those neat bar models, and Kayla even made sure to label her number sentence that matched the story. I'll be looking for that today. And let's say, way to go, Isosa. Here's Isosa working on a different math practice lesson. Check out those really neat open number lines. I can't wait to see your work in your YouTube workbook today. Be sure to snap a picture of it and send it to your teacher. So we are going to be working on some story problems today. Now, every Monday, we've been practicing story problems. What are some of the things that great first grade mathematicians do every single time they see a new story problem? You should be experts on this by now. That's right, friends. We should always visualize or make a brain movie of what's happening in the story so we really understand the question. What else should we do? You got it. We need to think about what we already know and what we're trying to figure out. And last but not least, great mathematicians show a neat model and a number sentence that matches what happened in the story. I can't wait to see you showing these great habits as we work on our story problems today. So let's jump right in. We're going to be working on story problems that ask us to compare. When we compare, we're thinking about questions like how many more or how many fewer. Let's take a look at my neat mathematician bar model here. Check out the blue bar on top. How many do we have there? That's right. That bar model shows 8. Check out the pink bar on the bottom. How many are in that bar? That's right, there's 5. Now, last week, to warm up our brains, I asked you how many more were in the blue bar than the pink bar. But today, I want to think about this question a little differently. I want to know how many fewer are in the pink bar than the blue bar. This mathematician word fewer means less or smaller. So how many fewer does the pink bar have than the blue bar? Go ahead and try to figure that out. That's right. Maybe you noticed that there was this part here that the pink bar did not have. And maybe you counted up the extra circles that the blue bar did have. The blue bar has 1, 2, 3 more. So we can say that the pink bar has 3 fewer. So that part that's different was 3. And when we go to answer our question, we can say the pink bar has 3 fewer than the blue bar. We're going to be using these strategies today as we tackle some really tricky comparing story problems. Are you ready to get started? Make sure you have your YouTube workbook out so that you can record down your bar models and your matching number sentences. So make sure that you've opened up to where you see the week of May 18th. And then turn to page 7. And you'll see our workspace for Math with Miss Flaherty on May 18th. So this is where you should be. And in your workspace, I want to see really neat bar models, number sentences, and your answers labeled clearly. All right, friends, let's get started. As I'm reading the story problem, your job as a mathematician is to visualize and make a brain movie in your head of what's happening. Are you ready? All right, listen up. Miss Bryn had 12 stuffed elephants. Miss Doherty only had 7 stuffed elephants. How many fewer stuffed elephants did Miss Doherty have than Miss Bryn? I want you to go ahead and put this story in your own words. You can tell it to a grown-up who's nearby, or you can just tell it out loud to yourself. I want to hear you. Good, I heard a lot of you say that Miss Bryn had more stuffed elephants and Miss Doherty had less stuffed elephants. And we want to find out how many less or how many fewer did Miss Doherty have? All right, so great mathematicians always show a model that matches the story. When we're comparing and finding out how many fewer, it's helpful to show 2 bar models right next to each other or right on top of each other. So pick up your pencil, and I want you to set up your bar models in your workbook, just like Miss Flaherty is. So I'm going to write B for Miss Bryn, and I'm going to show a side-to-side bar model just like this. Now, how many stuffed elephants did Miss Bryn have? That's right. It says in the story she had 12 stuffed elephants. We can always look back in the text for evidence to help us as we're solving. Okay, I don't really know how to draw elephants, and I don't think I'd be able to fit 12 of them in my workbook, in my bar model. That's okay. You could draw 12 neat circles, or second grade mathematicians actually just label the value in the bar model. So I would label Miss Bryn's bar 12. Make sure that's set up on your paper. Awesome job. Now I need to represent Miss Doherty's stuffed elephants. Should Miss Doherty's bar be shorter or longer than Miss Bryn's bar? That's right. Miss Doherty's bar should be shorter because she only has 7 stuffed elephants. Okay, you can write a capital D for Miss Doherty. And you can set up her bar right below. Let's make it a little bit shorter. And then we have to label how many stuffed elephants she had. 7. Okay. So now we need to think about what the question is asking us to figure out. In Georgetown, I say we always pay attention to the Q for question. So go back and read the question part of our story. What is it asking us to figure out? That's right, it's asking us how many fewer does Miss Doherty have. So I'm going to go ahead and get a different color here. I noticed that Miss Doherty's bar is shorter than Miss Bryn's. It's actually this much shorter. Miss Doherty has fewer, but we don't know how many fewer. I want you to go ahead and try to set up a number sentence that can help you figure out that part that's different, that part that's fewer. Go ahead and try that on your workbook page. All right, scholars. Now make sure that your number sentence is figuring out how many fewer. I saw some scholars in Georgetown write number sentences like this when they were asked how many fewer someone had. If we put Miss Bryn's 12 elephants together with Miss Doherty's 7 elephants, we'd be figuring out how many elephants they have all together. But that's not what the question asked us. So I'm going to take my mathematician eraser. It's okay to make mistakes. If you made that same mistake, you can erase it. So maybe you wrote a subtraction sentence. We could start with Miss Bryn's number of elephants, 12, and we could take away something, and then that would get us the number of elephants that Miss Doherty has, 7. If you wrote this subtraction sentence, give yourself a big check mark. Maybe you wrote an addition sentence that would help us solve. What was it? That's right. We could start with Miss Doherty, 7 elephants. And if we add on another part, we get to the total of Miss Bryn's 12 elephants. I want you to go ahead and solve. What was this part that's different? How many fewer did Miss Doherty have than Miss Bryn? That's right. Miss Doherty had 5 fewer because I know 12 minus 5 equals 7, or 7 plus 5 equals 12. Now, I want to push us as mathematicians to not just stop there. We should try to write a sentence that answers the question. If you don't have room for a whole sentence, like I don't have enough room, you can just write our answer with a few words to label it. So I'm going to write, Miss Doherty has 5 fewer elephants. And I'm trying to write that in my neatest handwriting in my workbook. Go ahead and label your answer. Now remember, she doesn't have 5 elephants. She has 7. But she has 5 fewer elephants than Miss Bryn. Are you ready for our next challenge story? Awesome. Let's get started. All right, so here is our next comparing story problem. You could draw a neat line across to separate your workspace to get started on this question. Go ahead and set up your workbook. Great. I'm going to read the story problem, and as I read it, your job is to make sure you're visualizing and making a brain movie so you understand what's happening. Be ready to put it in your own words once I'm done reading. Jaylani has 6 gummy bears. Mrs. Lee has 13 gummy bears. How many fewer gummy bears does Jaylani have than Mrs. Lee? All right, go ahead and tell that to yourself or to your family member in your own words. Ooh, I heard a lot of you saying that Jaylani doesn't have as many gummy bears as Mrs. Lee, and we want to know how many less or how many fewer Jaylani has. All right, just like we did for our last challenge, we are going to set up a neat bar model that shows Jaylani's gummy bears and a neat bar model that shows Mrs. Lee's gummy bears. See if you can set that up on your own this time. Go ahead and show it in your workbook. I'm going to set up mine now. All right, J for Jaylani. Her bar will be a little shorter because she only has 6 gummy bears. And I don't know how to draw gummy bears, so I'm just going to label the value 6 in my bar model like a second grade mathematician would. And then I'm going to write L for Mrs. Lee. Her bar is going to be longer because she has 13 gummy bears. All right, label 13. So now we need to think, what is the question asking us to figure out? Are we trying to figure out how many gummy bears they both have altogether? No, that's not what the question is asking us. Don't get tricked. It's asking me, how many fewer does Jaylani have than Mrs. Lee? I noticed Jaylani doesn't have this part of her bar. She has less. We want to know how many less, or we can say how many fewer. Go ahead and set up a number sentence that will help you figure that out. You could use a subtraction number sentence, or you could use an addition number sentence. Try that on your own. Write it in your workbook. That's right. We could start with Mrs. Lee's total. She has 13 gummy bears. And if we take away something, this part that we don't know, this part that's different, that brings us to Jaylani's number of gummy bears, which was only 6. You could also write an addition number sentence. Jaylani has 6 plus the extra that Mrs. Lee has, and that gets you to Mrs. Lee's total, 13 gummy bears. All right, go ahead and try to solve. How many fewer does Jaylani have than Mrs. Lee? That's right, it's 7. I'm going to get a different color here. Because 13 take away 7 equals 6, and 6 plus 7 more makes 13. Now try to write down your answer in a complete sentence, or if you don't have space, you should label your answer with some words so it's clear what we're talking about. Does Jaylani have 7 gummy bears? No, that's right. Jaylani has 6 gummy bears. Our answer 7 represents how many fewer she had than Mrs. Lee. So I would write 7 fewer gummy bears. Go ahead and label your answer in your workbook. Nice job, team. Now I have one challenge problem that I want you to work on as your exit ticket in your workbook. This will be really important that you show your neat bar model and your matching number sentence or sentences, and that you label your answer. We can't wait to see pictures of this exit ticket question. So let's check it out. So I'll read the story problem 2 times. As I read it, make sure you're visualizing and making a brain movie so you understand what's happening and what the question's asking us. Jodalise has 9 toy cars. Jamari has 13 toy cars. How many fewer toy cars does Jodalise have than Jamari? Jodalise has 9 toy cars. Jamari has 13 toy cars. How many fewer toy cars does Jodalise have than Jamari? Remember, fewer means how many less. You need to find the part that's different. How many less does Jodalise have than Jamari? I can't wait to see your neat bar models and your matching number sentence. Go ahead and get started. Great, keep up the great work. I can't wait to see it, mathematicians.